scariest monsters don't hide in the shadows. They live right next door. Tonight I'm going to share 3 true stories that will make you question everything you think you know about the quiet suburban streets you call home. These aren't tales from dark alleys or abandoned buildings. These happened in normal neighborhoods, to normal families, people just like you. The question is, are you ready to hear what they discovered? Let's begin. Story 1. The New Neighbors. 3 years ago, a couple bought their first home. Nothing fancy, just a modest place in a quiet neighborhood with wonderful neighbors. Life was perfect. So perfect, in fact, that 18 months later, when those same neighbors decided to sell their larger house next door, the one with the driveway, the garage, the bathtub, they jumped at the chance. They bought it, moved in, put their old house up for sale, and that's when everything changed. After reviewing several applications, they chose a Polish couple to buy their old home. The couple seemed normal, friendly even. They only spoke English, asked for tips about the house, made pleasant small talk. But looking back, that was the calm before the storm. It started with the noises. Midnight, heavy banging, music so loud it rattled the walls. No warning, no explanation, just chaos in the middle of the night. They didn't know it yet, but they were living a few feet away from something dark. Then came the first red flag. One evening, the neighbor came home, his car destroyed, both sides scraped and dented, like he'd been in a high-speed collision. Twice. When they asked what happened, he laughed nervously. "Oh, you won't believe it," he said. "Hit a concrete pole on one side, then a trailer sideswiped the other. Crazy, right?" The math didn't add up, but they chose to believe him. That was their first mistake. A week later, around 6 in the evening, the neighbor called in a total panic. "You have to help me," he screamed through the phone. "There are men outside my house. They're turning the security cameras away." They rushed over, called the police, and sure enough, 2 men were breaking into his house. By the time the police arrived 20 minutes later, the burglars were gone. But here's where it gets strange. The neighbor's wife burst out of the house, grabbed her French bulldog, and nearly collided with the officers. And the husband? He parked his car 3 streets away and walked to the scene, like he was hiding his vehicle from the police. Later, they checked their doorbell camera. The footage showed the burglars standing calmly outside, speaking in Polish, deciding which house to target. Nothing was stolen. The intruders escaped. And when they told the police it felt like a setup, they never heard back. 1 week later, it happened again. This time, they were at a party when their partner texted, "The music next door is insanely loud. Come home." Minutes later, another call. But the voice was different now. Terrified. "You'll never believe this. Someone crashed into our old house. Burglars are running out of it." They raced home, just in time to see their neighbor's car tear through their front garden and slam into his own front door. 2 men jumped out, loading the car with high-end electronics, flat screens, professional speakers, expensive gear. The same men from the week before. This time the police arrived in 7 minutes, intercepted them while they were still loading, demanded ID. "We don't have any IDs," the men said. Then the man behind the wheel looked officer dead in the eye and claimed to be the neighbor. Used his exact name. But there was a problem. In 9 months, the real neighbor had never spoken a word of Dutch. Not once. This man? Fluent Dutch. Thick Polish accent. Realizing they were caught, the men slammed the car into gear and sped off. A violent pursuit followed. The police boxed them in, arrested them. But it wasn't over. They could still hear movement inside the house. The officers went back in and dragged out a third suspect. Then the doorbell rang. They turned around, and there he was, the real neighbor. His face was unrecognizable, swollen, bloody, one eye swollen shut, his mouth torn, his arm hanging uselessly, covered in what looked like defensive wounds. He looked broken. The officer asked if he wanted to press charges. "No," he whispered. "No report. I'm fine." He refused to cooperate. Later that night, he came back, trembling. "I cheated on my wife," he confessed. "She sent those people to take me out. Can I please stay at your house tonight?" Terrified, they refused, offered to drive him to the hospital instead, dropped him off at 10:30 p.m., told him they were leaving for the night. But they didn't leave. They stayed home, locked every door, and waited. At 1 a.m., their dog started growling. That low, guttural growl he only makes when someone's at the door. They checked the camera. There he was, back from the hospital, standing on their porch, ringing the doorbell, over and over and over. They sat in the dark, watching. Then a car turned onto the street. He panicked, scrambled off the porch, hid behind their cars in the driveway. A woman stepped out, the neighbor's wife. She paused at her door, looked at the driveway, saw him crouching there. "Michael?" she sobbed. "Is that you?" Silence. "Michael, what did you do? Where have you been?" He didn't answer, just stayed there, hidden, silent. Her sobbing grew louder, echoing through the empty street. Eventually, they both got in the car and drove away. 3 days passed. No sign of them. They didn't even know where the dog was. When the wife finally returned, she was alone. "I don't think I'll ever see my husband again," she told them. Whatever the real story is, drugs, debt, a marriage turned lethal, they'll never know. And honestly, they don't want to. Story 2. The Backyard Watcher. This story takes place in 2017. Montreal suburbs. A split-level home, a 15-year-old girl, and a window she should have covered better. But before we get to the terrifying part, you need to understand the layout of her room. Her bedroom wasn't on the main floor, wasn't in the basement either. It sat exactly in between, at ground level. One wall shared space with the garage. The opposite wall had a large window overlooking the backyard. That window had vertical blinds, but several panels were missing. Even when closed, she could still see outside through the gaps. On the other side of the room was her closet, large sliding mirror doors. Here's the important part. When she was in bed, no matter which way she faced, she could always see the window reflected in that mirror. About a year after moving in, she started noticing things. Late at night, she'd watch videos on her tablet to help her sleep. One hot summer night, she left the window open for air. Then she heard it. Footsteps, shuffling, just outside. She paused the video. The noise stopped. Coincidence? Maybe. She resumed watching. Then it happened again. Footsteps. This time, she stopped the video and listened carefully. She thought she heard breathing. She glanced at the window. Nothing. Trying to calm herself, she decided it was just her imagination. Turned to face the closet, picked up her tablet, and that's when she saw it. In the mirror's reflection, something moved at the window. She woke her parents. Her dad checked the backyard. "There's nobody out there," he said. "You must be dreaming. Maybe you're just tired from watching those scary videos." She believed him, went back to bed. But every few weeks, she'd hear it again. Footsteps, breathing, movement. And every time, she talked herself out of it. When winter came and snow covered everything, the noises stopped. She forgot about it. But when spring returned, so did the sounds. It happened once or twice a month, always after 11 p.m. She convinced herself she was imagining it. Too many scary movies, too many late nights. She avoided looking at the window, and she definitely avoided looking in the mirror when the noises started. She didn't want to see. But one night, she looked. Not directly, just in the mirror. Through the gap in the blinds, she saw it. A silhouette. A person. Standing right outside her window. Her heart nearly stopped. She ran upstairs, woke her dad again. He checked. Found nothing. "Everything's untouched," he assured her. And once again, she believed him. This went on for years. She went to bed earlier, wore headphones, avoided the mirror. It always stopped in winter, always started again in spring. She was terrified of being proven right. December 2021, early evening, a massive windstorm. She was watching a stream on her tablet when she went to get water around 11:30 p.m. Her parents were sitting in the living room, tense, preoccupied. Unusual for that time of night. "Everything okay?" she asked. "Everything's fine," they said quickly. "Nothing to worry about." She turned toward the stairs. Saw them. Red and blue lights flashing through the front window. A police car pulling into their driveway. Her parents stood immediately, like they'd been expecting it, and hurried her to her room. "Go to your room now. We'll be there soon." 2 minutes later, they called her back. Her dad explained. 15 minutes earlier, during the windstorm, he'd stepped into the backyard to check if anything had blown over. The light from her bedroom window caught something. A man, standing motionless, just outside her window, staring in. "I yelled at him," her dad said. "Started moving toward him, but he turned and ran. Jumped the back fence like it was nothing. Disappeared into the neighbors' yards." In that moment, everything became real. The noises, the breathing, the silhouette. It wasn't her imagination. Someone had been watching her for years. The police arrived. Her parents warned the back neighbor, an older woman who lived alone. But when they knocked on her door, she became defensive, angry. "Who are you? Get off my property or I'll call the police," she yelled. Why would she react like that? If someone was lurking around, why threaten them? Was she living with that man? Had she seen him too? Or was he just a stranger who noticed a teenage girl's poorly covered window and took advantage? The police couldn't do much. Extra patrols, install more cameras. That was it. But here's what haunts her most. Did he only want to watch? Or was he building up to something worse? How long had he been there before she first noticed? And how much longer would it have gone on if her dad hadn't stepped outside that night? She still lives in that house, but now she always sleeps facing away from the backyard. And every time she hears a sound behind her, she wonders if it's him.
Don't miss the next terrifying tale. Subscribe to Hanuman Fear Files.